Welcome back to the Grapple Theory podcast. Thank you for joining us yet again. We've got a very special guest with us today, Darius Lockhart, who is here to talk about his new wrestling promotion, plus a lot more. We'll play some games as well. It's all going to be a lot of fun. Darius, how are you doing? Thank you for joining us.
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate you guys taking the time to speak to me.
No, absolutely. We're excited, and you must be as well, because you've had some big news out recently.
Yeah. We launched Ashe. I've been away from wrestling for a while. I didn't want to come back empty-handed, and I felt like this was one of the better ways I could do it, giving back and ultimately creating something that I'm very excited about, and hopefully people are excited about as well.
Absolutely, for sure. I mean, if they've seen the promo video, the first video you released, then they should be excited about it. It looks incredible. I mean, like, why now? Why was now the right time for you to launch Ashe?
I thought of this years ago. And it was kind of always, I started having personal issues that kind of threw me off the path. You know what I mean? I think the end of 2019, I was actually here in London staying for a little while when I kind of conceptualized the idea of what I wanted to look like, who I wanted to be a part of it. And, going through hardships of, injuries, and then, COVID happens, and then you lose, the funding that you might have set aside for it. I've had deaths in the family and things like that. Just kind of a lot of personal conflict where I needed to step away from pro wrestling for a little bit to get my head right. And coming back to this, I was thinking, come back to wrestling, what do I want it to look like? What do I want it to feel like? That's most important. And it needs to feel good. It has to feel healthy. And this allows me to create a space where I can keep wrestling at the right distance for my own personal mental health. But also, it was just kind of the right storm in terms of the funding was right, the time was right, the people were available. And I just wanted to strike while the time was, the iron was hot. But at the same time, make sure it was a place where I was in the right mentality to take this pressure and this responsibility on, because it's both of those things.
Yeah, I think that's something that we end up talking to people a lot about on the podcast, is like that sort of mental toll that the career can take on you, and needing to understand when it's okay and when you need to take that step back and step away from things for a bit to sort of like clear your head.
Absolutely.
I mean, like, do you feel in terms of, I mean, I'm sure you must now because of launching everything, but like you're back sort of in that comfortable zone where it's okay to sort of mold back into things and get back into it?
Yeah, at my own pace though. You know what I mean? It's I was telling a couple of friends the other day, I went from talking to no one to everyone kind of trying to talk to me, and it's been a little bit overwhelming, but I'm very thankful that it's lit a fire in people that they're interested. And I'm never going to take for granted interest and the attention and any kind of grace that fans give me in this professional sport. We're only here for a matter of time, short time, not a long time. No one's promised tomorrow. So that energy that I'm just thankful that people are willing to give that to me and expend that energy on me.
No, for sure.
So in terms of being ready for it, as long as I take the right consideration for myself and listen to my body, listen to my mind, no one to hold them, no one to take a step back, I think I should be fine.
No, absolutely. And that is important. That is really important. And in terms of setting up Ashe, like, how did it sort of, I mean, in terms of talk me through the timeline in terms of when, like, the idea first came to you to actually launching. How long was that whole process?
Yeah, well, this is by technicality because, just how life happens. It's been about a 3 or 4 year process, I would say. Well, yeah, a 4-year process. It kind of just started with pitching ideas, to friends and DMs, other wrestlers, and also running into the, they'll never let us do that, or, I would always want to do this, but I've always been told no, and then running into also a bunch of friends who have been pigeonholed and put in perspective, like put in positions where they weren't able to be seen outside of like kind of the tropes that people confine them to, whether that's their size, their body weight, their height. And I just felt like, there's so much people have to give. And I feel like people forget what wrestling really is about, styles clashes and things like that. You look at ECW, Paul Heyman knew how to present people despite their weaknesses. Almost, they present people to actually accentuate their strengths. And I thought that there needs to be more of that in pro wrestling rather than just saying it doesn't work for me, I don't get it, from higher ups who relatively are kind of the same 10 to 25 names being recycled throughout the history of wrestling. I figured that if we were going to actually change and move things forward for individuality and individualism and actual characters to come back to pro wrestling, there needs to be a new influx of what characters can be. And in order for that to be a real understanding and a forward thinking kind of a new direction, I think the people at the top behind the scenes kind of have to change what they look like, who they are, their experiences. It can't just be the same places and the same faces in different places. It has to be kind of some new blood who can take themselves outside of their own personal biases, whether that be through religion, race, creed, anything like that, and see people for who they are. That's just the talent that's right in front of them. Yeah. So I want people to accentuate that and help, maybe a helping hand in that fight.
Yeah, for sure. Like that intrigues me, because obviously you're someone who's been in the business for a long time, and you talk about at the very start just the sort of the timing being right for this to come about and for you to start this. Like, does that include in terms of? I feel like, and again, as a wrestler, I'm interested to get your perspective on it, but as a fan, it feels like now is the sort of time where those things that you want from Marche are also happening in other indies and in other areas of wrestling, where those things are sort of like those stereotypes or tropes of certain types of wrestlers are sort of being pushed to the side more now.
A little bit. I think we are making a lot of progress. It's just in terms of, I'm so sorry, let me turn my notifications off.
No, it's all right, no worries.
Yes, we are making a lot of progress. I think that things aren't always so surface level as people would assume, though. You know what I mean? Sometimes it's, I want to use an analogy here. Sometimes it's not really the math, but it's the literature, the English that we need to talk about. You know what I mean? If a picture's worth 1,000 words, how many words are you saying to me when there's so many frames in a wrestling show? You know what I mean? There's 2-3 hours of content. What are you saying to me when certain people are perceived this way? What are you saying to me when, you know, the wins and losses do matter, but, you know, they aren't always equitable. Positioning isn't always equitable. Presentation isn't always equitable. And I think that, you know, we have to dig a little bit deeper than just kind of the numerical counts and how many people get to be seen, but how they're utilized and how they're used, I think is important as well. I've told people that bringing them onto this project, people who have asked to be brought onto the project, it's not really a matter of if or if you're good enough. It's a matter of when and what's right for your character, what's right for your persona. I want to be able to extend storytelling to people. I want to be able to extend, you know, things that mean something. Like this is actually accentuating what you're good at, rather than just using you as a throwaway match on a card, or just using you as just a body or a dream match. You know, I don't want to be a matchmaker. I want to be a booker and a creative and work with talent in order to tell stories and get people interested in who these people are.
Absolutely, and from what you're saying there, this sounds like, again, from what people can expect from Marche, it sounds like it's going to be like a proper, you know, running promotion, rather than, it's not like just a, you know, a one shot in the bag kind of deal.
Well, who's to say? You know what I mean? I know I kind of spoken to the future, but I like to speak, you know, life into things. That's what Ashe is all about: life energy, life force. And so I would like to have this, you know, being extended, but you know, we are focusing on show one. I should probably limit the way I talk about this in that aspect. But even this show is the spirit of that energy is in this show. The way I'm presenting, I guess, certain individuals, they're getting time to talk. They're getting time to tell people the other characters. You know, I talk about having a lot of online content. We haven't thrown everything out because a lot of times I'm facilitating and filming it myself. So it's kind of hard to film everything and be everywhere at once. But as we're hoarding it and getting ready to put it out, you'll see a lot of that character accentuation and some of the YouTube content, things online that supplement the show.
Yeah, and you talked about the life force part. Obviously, you put that at the start of like your first promo video as like the definition of Ashe. Like, why was that name so and that meaning so important for you in setting up the promotion? What, you know, how did that essentially come about?
Yeah, well, you know, I love promotions that have one word. And it's not tied to an acronym. I feel like acronyms are so trope heavy when it comes to pro wrestling. You know, the first thing people saw was, oh, ASE, what does it stand for? And it's like, well, not that necessarily. You know, there's so many acronyms to remember. It starts to, you know, it gets confounded.
And they're all gone at this point. There's too many.
Yeah, there's so many. And in respect, some of them sound really good, but also it's kind of hard to come up with a dope acronym as well. You know, what does it stand for? So I kind of, I'm influenced by Progress Wrestling. I haven't been shy about saying that. And I thought that, you know, many more Defies, there's all these people, but I thought the one word that exemplifies the spirit and embodiment of what the show is and what you expect to experience. I thought there's power in that. And stumbling across the word Ashe, which, you know, means life energy, life force, bringing things in, like, you know, creating things and bringing things to life. I thought there was so much that exemplifies what we're trying to do here, but it also brings power into the room and through anyone who speaks it. So you even saying the word Ashe is kind of bringing good omens to you. And so now we're in a whole, arena and people are chanting the word Ashe. Look how powerful that is. We're actually speaking good energy into us and putting something back into the world that's inherently positive at that. So I just kind of wanted to speak to good omens, good energy, and prosperity in the future for everyone involved.
Amazing. Yeah, amazing. And in terms of, because you mentioned the sort of inspiration from Progress and Defy in terms of the name, and obviously like Ashe is going to be its own thing and you'll make it its own thing. But in terms of promotions that you watch and are inspired by, not in terms of, oh, I want to use this from them, but in terms of promotions that you watch and are inspired by in terms of the way they run and like that you like the way they run, what promotions sort of help inspire you in that way?
That's a great question. I look at promotions. There are certain runs that I really enjoy specifically. So I mean, I would say ECW, once they kind of got into that niche of understanding who the characters were and how to like I said, accentuate their what makes them special rather than trying to make everyone wrestle the same and do things they're not good at. So like late ECW, I would go 2012 to 2019 New Japan. I would go, old Memphis. I'm a big fan of World Classic Championship Wrestling with the old NWA territories with Ron Garvin and Ric Flair, the year 86 through 88. Those are very influential to me. I love WWE's year of 2008. I think it's one of the best. I think it has some of the best examples of long format storytelling that people don't really see. It kind of goes right under your nose. But if you're looking for it, there's a lot of characters. There's a whole roster, about 12 to 16 people that weave in and out over the course of a year. And it's very fluid, very effortless. I would say 07 to 08. I think it's really, I'm really influenced by that. And maybe some, maybe some early SmackDown as well. Some of that 2002, 2003 Ruthless Aggression SmackDown. I'm influenced by that as well. So these are things that I pull from: a little old school, a little new school, a little sports presentation, a little bit of sports entertainment, storytelling, long formats. Those are things that really get me going in pro wrestling.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's really cool. It's nice to know those are some inspirations behind it as well. And in terms of the talent you mentioned, in terms of getting them in and then coming to you, like, how was that process? Did you start like hitting people up, being like, I want you to be part of this, and then like it sort of build as that, or like people coming to you? Was it more of that?
Well, the people coming to me is a very recent thing, because I've been very quiet about this project. However, I'm lucky that people are still receptive, because some of these people I told this idea to in 2019. So some of the people probably were like forgotten about it, or were like, he was just talking, or, whatever, maybe, you know what I mean? And so for me to come back and make good on my promise was really exciting. But it was, I had a roster of people like in my phone written down, just people I wanted to use. And, one day it was 10 and then it turned to 20, then it turned to 60. And it's like, who knows? But in terms of narrowing that down to who it is now, with what the show looks like, I had to think about what everyone brings to the show and what I'm trying to accomplish with the show in terms of fan base, who I want to appeal to, who do I want to walk away with, what ideas about wrestling, what ideas about the show. So it then really became, I use the word curated by, in promotion. It really became curation, because I'm like, okay, I need this person to do this specific thing for this specific audience member. And so that's why now it's kind of a beautiful gumbo that hopefully we'll get to, maybe throw more flavors in.
Yeah. It sounds like that sounds really cool, because again, correct me if I'm wrong, but as a fan, it sounds like you started this promotion and you're essentially booking it on terms of, oh, this is who I've got, this is how I'm going to use this person, rather than this is what I want and I have this person, how do I make it work?
Right. And that's important, because you never want to fit, a round peg into a square hole, right? You kind of want to make sure things make sense when it's viable to. You kind of want to, think what is going to make this person come off like the star that they are, that I believe them to be, that I see that they are, that maybe people haven't seen yet, or maybe people have forgotten. So I just think that that's integral to what I want this to be, making things like make sense and fit naturally, where people can, watch and go, I know this person, and feel some familiarity to it. Just classic pro wrestling. Really. Yeah,
absolutely. Taking it back to basics sort of
thing. Have to. I think we kind of got off course with a little bit of the work break culture. I moved in, I lived with a friend not too long ago. I live alone now. But for a while I was living with them, they had never seen pro wrestling before. And I had shown them basically, they never seen any of it. So I started them from a zero education, and seeing what they gravitated to, what mattered to them, was almost a re-education of me, because I've been in this echo chamber for 10 plus years now. Well, 11 years, and even more as a fan, if you want to add to it, and so it kind of got me a drink of water and being like, remember what this is. Remember what this is supposed to be. Remember how you're supposed to feel when watching it. And that was kind of a recourse. So yeah, we are going back to basics, really.
Yeah, I was going to say, because I have a general sort of question that I ask everyone on the podcast of like, if someone comes up to you and doesn't know pro wrestling, what's the first thing you show them? Like with your friend there, how did you introduce them to that? Like, what was the first thing you showed them to get to that level of like, oh, this is the first thing you need to see?
So you're gonna laugh. The first thing I showed him was a complete accident. So I didn't know he had never seen wrestling before, and I wouldn't have shown him the first match I showed him had I known he had never seen it before. So we were talking about, he's a big anime fan. He was talking about long-term storytelling in terms of, I believe it was Attack on Titan. And he was talking about some of the things that animes do in their storytelling. And I made a comparison to New Japan about how New Japan kind of takes from that element. And that's kind of a structural thing that they use. And I used Kenny Omega and Okada as an example. Their first bout from Wrestle Kingdom, like an hour long, dude. He sat there, like he understood, he was watching it. He was amazed by what he saw. And when it ended, he just went, wow, never seen pro wrestling before. That was awesome. And I go, oh, I have set the standard way too high.
Now he can fix every match.
Yeah. So, then we went to like old SmackDowns and stuff like that. And he asked to see The Rock. And then his life changed. And he got it. He understood what it was really supposed to be. And yeah, so I ended up showing him a lot of early, Ruthless Aggression, SmackDown, and Attitude Era stuff for him to kind of conceptualize how far wrestling can be. And by the time we got to old school stuff, he was madly in love. So it was just awesome.
Awesome. Yeah. No, that's throwing in the deep end wrestling wise, isn't it? It's like starting someone off strong.
I had to dial him back. We ended up doing like Ric Flair and Sting from like 83. That was a little bit better, stuff like that. And that was a little healthier for his brain.
Then you got to show him something bad. You got to like bring him back down further. Be like, it's not all this good. Some of it is not like
facts. People think about everyone, especially in the past 10 or 15 years, being caught up in like the whole work rate culture. Everyone doesn't realize everything can't be a 5-star match. And everything has to be the best match ever, because if everything is, then nothing is, right? So sometimes, like, I remember he really enjoyed, it was about a 6-minute match between Batista and Deuce from Deuce and Domino. Like, sometimes you got to have that match to remind you guys of the power structure of the level. So then when it is 50 kickouts, that actually means something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Exactly. Exactly. Like you say, I think like a similar comparison is kind of weird, because I was talking to someone else in the wrestling sphere about this yesterday. And they were sort of telling me about this, I won't name names, but this like sort of wrestler who's more known as a comedy wrestler, who they're not a particular fan of because he doesn't appreciate their work rate because they're not that good technically. And I'm like, well, they don't need to be good technically because that's not their gimmick, right? Their gimmick is to go out and have the funny match that everyone like dies laughing at. Right. So it doesn't matter if they're good technically. If they can make people laugh, that's still being a good wrestler.
Absolutely. I've always been one to say you do not have to be a good wrestler to be a good wrestler. You don't have to be a good wrestler to be a great wrestler. You don't have to be a good wrestler to be the best wrestler. That's the funny thing about it. Like you just have to know how to connect with that energy and know what you're good at. Like I said, accentuate that strength, and you can take it much further than trying to do a million hurt around the skin. So.
Yeah. As a pro wrestler, I'm intrigued by that. Like how long did it take you to sort of come to terms with that? Because we talk to people on the podcast a lot about how wrestling, unlike other sports, is a thing based solely on perception, on like you do as well as however the promoter sees you doing well, however much they like you, however much they want you to do well is how well you'll do. So how does it take a while to come to terms with that as a wrestler, in terms of like you might think like you're better than someone, but that person might have a way bigger career because it's purely based on one person's perception or a group of people's perceptions?
I think, I was raised, so I was not raised, but I was trained very old school. So I came in with that foundation, but I think as you try to further your career and fit in, and you're in these matches, I think the boom period that I came up in, it became kind of, I feel like most of us became socialized to try to outdo each other and try to like chase that dragon. So I think I kind of got lost for a little while. And I think it wasn't really until I want to say 2019 where I started to reconceptualize. Remember what this really was. Like, why am I burning out? Why am I, doing these things I don't really need to do when I'm already over through X, Y, and Z? And I felt like from, I guess, 2020 sitting at home and getting more fans by sitting at home and tweeting videos and creating packages to really get the character over. And then coming back to like people knowing who I was without ever seeing me wrestle, being excited to see me without ever seeing a full match. I think that was the where it really re-clicked in my head and being like, okay, I less is more. And one of the best compliments I ever gotten was I did the NWA. I did a promo for them and live. We were talking live and everything. And I got backstage and Ricky Morton pulled me aside and he said, from now on, don't bump, just talk. And I go, see how much power there is in that. You know what I mean? See how much power there is in just connecting with the audience that way before you fall down a million times. I think the last 3 to 4 years has been really integral in me understanding I didn't say understanding, but remembering what this is supposed to be. I think I got a little bit into the work rate culture myself earlier. I just waste a lot of time doing that.
No, for sure. And in terms of, well, we'll talk about a different type of work rate, because again, like anyone who again follows your socials and stuff will know that you've been away from wrestling for a little while and you're back now with O'Shea, and like how does it feel to sort of be, I guess, behind the curtain running the show essentially, as it were, like in terms of, does it give you that like, oh, this is what other promoters have got to go through like month on month, like week on week?
It definitely gives you an appreciation for the infrastructure. It definitely gives you, a appreciation and respect for the people who take the time out of their livelihood to do this and make this their livelihood. They could be doing anything in the world, and they chose to put up with us. and it's not, not that big of a headache too much, especially when this is kind of centered from a place of love and people kind of know me, so they have a relationship. So it is, I feel like my experience is a lot more relaxed. It's a lot different. It's a lot, and I'm sure I'll run into some more headaches as I continue this path. But I think the dynamic between myself and the worker is a little bit different, a little bit easier, because I know what they're going through and I know what they're like, and I've, been in their shoes. So they're willing to like kind of resonate with me rather than, feeling like they're, putting their life on the line for someone who just sees them as an object or a toy that they can, pick up or put down whenever a new thing comes in,
Yeah. No,
so
sure.
It gave me appreciation for what people will have to deal through, though, in terms of staying busy and not having time for yourself or anything like that. Like I said, I went from talking to everyone to talking to no one, to everyone talking to me, and now I'm doing this consistently, and it's like, yeah, okay.
I was going to say, we talked about earlier getting thrown in the deep end. You're throwing yourself back into wrestling at the deep end with this.
Yeah, the deepest that I could, right? And I got I'm here in London. I think I'll be around at RevPro this weekend. I owe Andy Quote an apology. Everyone's always ragging on Andy because he takes forever to get back to you, but I know why he takes forever to get back to people now, because everyone's trying to talk.
Sometimes there's too many messages in the inbox. Sometimes
you're just overwhelmed, and you have to learn how to. That's any human. If you're dealing with work, if you're dealing with stress, you have to know when to unplug and listen to your body and know, hey man, I just don't have it in me today. And that's okay to say that, you know what I mean? I'm a very big advocate for mental health and wellness. I do, understand people who grind. They're workaholics. I respect that culture. But there's two sides to that. When you burn out, you need somewhere to rest. You need somewhere to lie. You need also a foundation of understanding of what that looks like for yourself. So anyone who knows that looks like for themselves and is constantly pulling that card and working through that, immense respect for them. And shout out to all the promoters who are going through that battle, because it's unappreciated, and it's a labor of love that goes, uncelebrated. So shout out to them. Yeah,
absolutely, for sure. Shout out to all the promoters. Incredible work. And and you mentioned obviously being over in the UK. By the time this goes out, that weekend will have gone to Rev Pro. We're going to Rev Pro. So in terms of when we can expect you back next, like, can we maybe, once O'Shea's had their first show, come 2024 New Year, can we expect you back here in the ring at any point or something like that?
Maybe, we'll have to see. You know what I mean? I like to keep things a little mystique. I like to keep things a little serious. I will address everything about my career, in this December 1st, at the show. I will take time to address it with the audience there. It's been just a rough year with so many injuries and everything. There was a moment, and I haven't really talked about this publicly, so this is exclusive. There was a moment where I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to do this again, with doctors, you're seeing concussion doctors, and you're seeing things, and people are saying to you, hey, we're going to try to get you back to 100, but we are not sure if, maybe you don't need to do this anymore. You've done 10 years, that's a good thing. So it's been that conversation of what does the next 10 years of my life, what does the rest of my life look like? But I'll address that December 1st. And either way, London hasn't seen the last of me. I do love it here. And it's a good scene. There's so many good people here, especially at Rev Pro alone, TK and Chuck Mambo and Kanji and Drilla Dan Maloney. There's so many people good here. So either way, y'all are taken care of. But would I like to be around again? Yeah, for sure.
I was going to say, there's a couple of things you mentioned there that I wanted to get into. The first is, we've had it again from a few wrestlers who have long injury layoffs, and they say they watch from the sidelines, and there's always that part of you that just wants to be back more watching it. They don't like watching wrestling because then it just makes them want to be in it more. And you mentioned that talent that we have over here, it must be again sort of like that, where it's oh shit, these guys are great, but also I want to be facing them.
I think my desire to face them is always going to be embedded, just as a respect for them and their love, and I just know what we could do. You know what I mean? But to be honest with you, when I stepped away from pro wrestling, I believe that was 2022. After, sorry, the years kind of blend. When I stepped away from pro wrestling, I had the opposite feeling. I didn't want to watch because I just couldn't stand to look at it anymore. I just didn't want to. I didn't want a part of it. It hurt to watch. I had become detached from it all. It just, I was almost desensitized. It just didn't make, I don't know. I became a little bit, jaded internally. And that had been an on again, off again battle. But at that point, I was just so exhausted. I remember last year I flew over and I saw Zack Sabre Jr. wrestle Leon Slater, his first match back in the UK. That was really one of the biggest incentives for me to come back over here. I just wanted to see what that audience was like. And that was the first show I'd been to since I stopped wrestling. That was a little bit of this feels nice. But at the same time, I didn't even have that desire to get back in the ring that day. That's how I knew I wasn't ready yet. I showed up early and walked around the ring, and usually old me would have been trying to sneak in and let's chain, brother, all that stuff. And I didn't care. I was like, oh, it's good to see you. I will sit here. And but the moment I started feeling that again and seeing wrestling, that's when I knew, okay, maybe we need to dial back and see what else we have to give to this sport that we love so much. Now we're kind of out of our own way emotionally and mentally. So now it's feeling a little bit more like that. Before a while, it didn't necessarily.
No, sure. Do you mean it was that same show that got you back inspired, seeing that match, the Leon Zach match, or?
I think watching that show was hell yeah, I still love wrestling. Hell no, I'm still not ready.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
I was going to say, because then because if you're watching Leon Slater and you still think you're not ready, then right? Because Leon's
Absolutely.
incredible.
I mean, Leon's one of one. I think the world of Leon Slater. Shout out to him. And the world is finding out very quickly. I'm happy. Usually people can kind of go through things, but that's kept secret for a while. But Leon has the luxury of being platformed at a good speed, and I'm very happy for him. I hope he continues to soar and gets everything he wants out of pro wrestling.
Yeah,
we don't know each other that well. I've only met each other that day, actually, in passing, but he seems to be a good spirit. Shout out to him.
Oh, no, he's great. He's brilliant. He's good because he's the one that, again, I wouldn't consider myself old, but he makes me feel old. Because I'm how the hell does he do what he does at 19 years old?
Yeah, 19's crazy. Yeah, that's why, though. You just answered your own question. He's 19. He can't. When you start doing 28, you're like, okay, maybe a crossbody will do. I don't know.
You're like, no more. Just take it easy from that.
Yeah, but I hope he continues to excel and do his thing. He's so great.
No, and I respect you opening up like that, because I think that is important, and we've spoken to, we've spoken to others on the podcast about that mental side of it, knowing when you're ready to be back, and sometimes it's tough to almost accept that you need to take a bit more time off, but it's important to again know your limits, know your boundaries. So I really respect that. Was there a moment, a match, a show, or something that you went to that happened that was the catalyst for okay, I'm ready again, or was it a gradual thing?
I think it was a gradual thing. I think it was living with my friend who had never watched wrestling and seeing it all over again from a little boy's eyes almost, because he was just saying, if I had watched this when I was a kid, I would have loved it. Oh my God. And seeing his energy for it kind of reminded me yeah, this is cool. That is fun. This is what I love about wrestling. You're right. You know what I mean? And I think that kind of made me re-fall in love with it, just living with my roommate and showing him old clips of things that he hadn't never seen before and seeing his reaction. I mean, the first time, someone turns on somebody, the heel turn, legendary heel turn. It's he never sees it coming. I think I queued up his, what did I queue up for him that one time? The Seth Rollins cash-in. I showed him the Brock Lesnar Cena triple threat with Seth Rollins at the Rumble. Then I showed him the Lesnar Reigns match with the cash-in, and seeing him go crazy, it was like, that's what I miss.
Yeah.
That's what I miss about making people feel like that. And so I think it got on me through there.
It's mad because I'd never really thought about it, but you're right. Some of the shows I enjoy most is when I take my friends who have never seen wrestling before, because then you see it through the eyes of someone who's never seen it, and like things like heel turns and shit, like you watch it on TV and you know what's coming, you know it's going to happen. Like, unless it's, you know, the most insanely well-booked thing ever and you never see it coming. But most of the time you can see it coming. You know it's coming as a fan who's watched it for years. Yeah. But they don't know it's coming. And then when it happens, you're like, oh shit, yeah, like, I didn't see it as that sort of thing before.
No, that's exactly it. And that's honestly why I think, and also in part why I want to make sure Ashe is such a crossover appeal show, so that energy can come back into the room. If we can cater to people, you know, I have a live performance by Dreamville Salute. He's coming in and he's bringing his music fans into it. And I feel like with a lot of those music fans that are going to probably come, they either used to watch wrestling and forgot they love it, or have never seen wrestling and are willing to try it out. And I think that energy that they will bring back into the room needs to come on us fans who've seen everything and just feel like we could be impressed. Because these guys here are waiting for the most impressive move you've ever seen, the most impressive booking you've ever seen, and these other guys want to see a body slam.
Yeah.
And we've forgotten how cool a body slam is because we've seen a million of them.
Yeah.
So it's like, I hope the energy can have an osmosis kind of effect. It can kind of transfer, because we need that back. You know what I mean? Let's start it and get the energy back, make us care again.
Oh, for sure. I don't know when you're leaving London, but next week there's a show, Riot Cabaret. I don't know if you know them, but they're in promotion. Yeah, they're in like South London, in Clapham, and like they're one of like these hot new promotions that like essentially have that sort of fan base where like half the crowd have never watched wrestling before, and it's mad going to it because, again, like you say, like the simplest move that like a wrestling fan who's been watching for as long as like you have or I have will be like, oh, that's just a regular move. Like, it's going to be a kick out. It's fine, whatever. And like, there's half the room that's just going mad for this move. And you're like, oh my God, what is happening?
All you need, man. That's all you need. I mean, like, it's the childlike wonder, you know, in addition to, you know, Loot and the hip hop fans and music fans that are going to bring in, you know, we're also catering to families. We're doing a lot of communal work to get kids in there too. So having kids bring that energy, they're going to, you know, freak out as well, just seeing a body slam. Sometimes seeing it up close and hearing how loud the ring is does a lot for people. And I hope that we can, you know, work in the same vein as the show you just listed. I hope that it rubs off on us too.
No, for sure. And I mean, in terms of the show itself, you're kicking off with a bang. The first match you announced as at time of recording this week, Trish Adora, Aja Kong. Like, what a match! That's a ridiculous first match to be announcing.
Oh, go ahead. I don't know if there's a question attached, but
I was just want to talk about how insane the match is. To be honest, it's not necessarily like a question, more like shit. That's an insane match, man. I mean. What made you want to put those two together and like just again, I don't even know how to ask it because it's just such an insane match. It's such a mind-blowing match to me.
You know, it felt right. I'm a fan. I am, even though the term has been used or utilized, I am a fan of dream matches. You know, I would just think of people who I would love to see complement each other, and I've thought of a million that I would love to, you know, maybe one day bring it Ashe if we do another one or whatever. But this was one of them. This was one of the things where Trish's original opponent was injured. And I was like, well, the person I had in mind was injured. And I was like, okay, well, let's go big. How about we go to a name instead of someone, you know, who's Trish's equal, whatever like that. Let's make it back up in tenfold. And I was like, what if, and then it kind of just like, it gave me, you know, it just popped in my head because, you know, Trish has this, she's been to Japan and hopefully she gets to go back and everything like that. But, you know, Aja Kong has set a precedent for women of color in Japan. And it just seems like you don't get Trish Adora without Aja Kong. And Aja Kong is so unappreciated in that fashion, underappreciated in that fashion. And also they're both two amazing wrestlers. I just thought the dynamics would be amazing. Trish has so much strength with that lariat tuck, and trust me, I've been on the receiving end of it. She'll knock your head off. And that versus the Kong back fist, I was just imagining things that they could do, what could happen. And I was like, I have to make this happen. made all the calls I could to try to ensure it, and I'm glad it came through, and that we'll be able to bear witness in person.
Yeah, it's gonna be amazing. And Trish is someone who, again, like, is so good, and yet I still feel like someone like underrated. Like, at the time of recording, like, she's just lost her Pan African World Title, and that reign was mad, like 1,300 days or something ridiculous. Yeah. Like, no one holds a belt that long.
And maybe this isn't something to brag on, but I will say I was the first. You know, in terms of crowning the first, it was me and Trish in the ring, and she could do it. And see where she took that torch and ran with it, which is awesome to see. And I think to set such a, you know, I've heard a lot of critiques or whatever like that, but to set such a strong foundation, I think any championship, when trying to rise to prominence, having the first champion have a meaningful run or something that's sustainable longer, not fleeting like a hot potato, it does mean something. And for not only that, but for it to be a gender neutral championship, and for the first person to hold it to be a Black woman, there's power in that. There's a statement in that. And for her to have a reign that's strong and her be that protected, I don't think people understand how important that is for someone who looks like Trish, you know, a dark-skinned Black woman in her space who has not been elevated. I mean, who people don't really elevate dark-skinned Black women in pro wrestling as much. They will try to do anything to not do that. So to see someone in her position be pushed to say, this is the one, this is ours, this is our person, this is our champion. I was like, you know, I was all aboard and trying to support her any way she could. And so that we have what a reign, very underappreciated woman. I think, you know, this is only the start. I think she has such a bright future in so many different avenues, whatever she chooses to do.
Absolutely.
You know, I'm a big fan of my sister. She's amazing.
No, absolutely. Big up Trish. And again, that sort of, that leads us into something that I want to discuss anyway, because over here in the UK, it's Black History Month at the minute.
Yes.
And I wanted to ask you about representation in wrestling, because you sort of mentioned it there, but even when Trish won the Pan-African title, like, I feel like representation in wrestling was very different to how it is now. I feel like it's come a long way in a very short space of time.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. But other wrestlers we've had on of colour as well have highlighted the fact that while it is improving, there is still more work that needs to be done. Have you seen that sort of change take place as someone who's been in the business for a long time? Can you see it noticeably changing for the better?
Yes. I do see changes. I do see that platforming. You know, you see people like Jade Cargill, you see Bianca Belair, you see, Kofi Mania did happen. I think it happened in 2019, which is still a damn shame. But I think we are seeing, you know, things progress a little bit. So, but once again, it's a matter of what that looks like on the other side of it. What happens after we win the world title? Are we still credible challengers? Are we still meaningful characters on screen? Do we have a presence on screen that's that matters to the overall theme of the show? Or are we down the card just middling? You know, there's things like that I think about that I want us to work on. What happens, you know, outside of people who aren't title contenders? How long does it take to be a title contender? You know, everyone's always putting the phrasing of, well, it takes more time, but they're willing to give everything to, you know, whoever is 19, flipping. You know what I mean? Like, it's okay, you know, but there's things that, you know, to speak truth to power. I try to speak truth to power without being messy, without being leading with anger or any frustration. You know, I told someone yesterday, the wrestling guys, that, you know, the old name for the company used to be Vendetta, like the video game. But I thought that was such a word that showed a chip on the shoulder. And I wanted to lead with love. I wanted to lead with new creation and newfound blood. So I'd rather talk about it in that vein rather than talk about what's wrong. But I do think we do need there's a little bit more. And not even just for Black people in pro wrestling, for everyone. You know what I mean? For luchadors, for, you know, Japanese talent who's migrating to the States. I think that the pieces of pie don't, you know, everyone can get one now, but there's a difference between equality and equity.
Yeah.
And equality is everyone gets the same. Equity is everyone gets what they need to even things out and to get what they need, basically, to be affirmed. And I think that a lot of people have been eating pie for a long time. So everyone gets 2 slices. You've kind of been eating 2 slices every day for the past 75 years. Let these guys get maybe 3 or 4 more. You know what I mean? So I think that representation is more, like I said earlier, about the literature and the things that we're saying with the actions and what we're presenting on screen, rather than the number of people we have on stage or on the presentation. We've made a lot of progress, but you have to also think about the reasoning of the progress as well. Who does it benefit? Why does it benefit? Is it genuine? Some people don't care if it's genuine. Some people, or if it happens, it happens. Doesn't matter the reason. But I like to think that I would like to see some, if the intentions are quality and actually true. Like if the intentions are really down to you see it on the other side of the accomplishment, on the other side of the title run. What happens after you get squashed in 7 seconds? Are you a main eventer now?
Yeah.
No. Was it an experiment? Was it to say you gave him one? You know what I mean? So I think we need to start really asking ourselves deeper questions. But that's uncomfortable for people. So I understand why that can be such a clash thing. But
it's important. It's important to discuss these things.
It is important. It is important. I spoke, once again, the rest of the things, I told them a story. I had a buddy named Chris Lee who used to be professional wrestler. We've had matches before, some of my first few matches. And he told me, he said, as a kid, I was the biggest Sting fan. And I thought biggest Bret Hart, biggest Sting fan. I wanted to be a wrestler. He said, but I didn't think I could do it because I thought Black people weren't good at wrestling. We were always losing. We always lost. So I just thought we weren't good at it. So maybe that was look at a different thing. And even though it's funny and it's the mind of a kid, it's still very sad because once again, what are you saying to that child? Well, that child is perceiving, he's watching himself on screen or people look like him and not in a positive position.
Yeah, that doesn't make him want to be a pro wrestler if he sees people like him always losing.
And it doesn't make him feel like he can do many things or do anything. Like someone like a white kid who might be watching Triple H. I mean, I used to joke with my friend, if I was a white boy in 2002 and saw Brock Lesnar, I would think I could do anything. Like I would think, but but then there's Chris, and he did not have that for himself. So I think representation is very important. Like I said, the words on the page matters just as much as the number of people in the room.
Yeah, and it brings you back to what you said, something else as well about sort of like the character, because we've spoken about this not just with people of color, but with LGBTQ wrestlers and with female wrestlers on this podcast as well, in terms of the fact that like for so long all of those groups, people of color and LGBTQ characters and women, were often so typecast into a box of what their character could be. Yes. And like now it seems like that box has burst open, because whilst, like you say, the representation is important as well in terms of like getting the bookings, none of those characters are the same character. None of those people, none of those wrestlers are the same character anymore. They're all so different.
Exactly. We went from having, people saying things like, already got a women's match, to Shawn Michaels booking 5 women's match on Halloween Havoc on TV. Like, you know what I mean? Like that, this is the direction we need to be moving in. And each one of those women are their own persons. And I love seeing that. Like you said, people have been marginalized for a long time. I told a story. I was told to my face when I was coming up young, we already booked this person, and like this Black person, we already booked him. So we felt like we didn't need to book any more Black people because he already fed our Black audience. But we book you because, you're different enough. So maybe. And I thought that was such an ugly and backhanded compliment and a terrible spirit to bring. But that's how people have been trained and conditioned to think about pro wrestling for the past 45, 50 years. And I think it's time we buck tradition and then once again create something new. Ashe.
Absolutely. Like others have said, we've had on it. It's not about, let's book these wrestlers because they're colored. It's let's book these wrestlers because they're fucking amazing and they happen to be colored.
Exactly. And that was this. Ashe has been a very interesting Rorschach test, if I can say. I just presented a wrestling promotion. I haven't, said it's anything or anything that. I just said, this is a wrestling promotion moving to a new phrase. And people have kind of projected all these kind of thoughts and ideas on it. And I love it. It's kind of a social experiment. But I've booked everyone on this show because they bring something that I love to see in pro wrestling. They're a character. They're a technician. They're going to exemplify what I love about pro wrestling to an audience that I want to appreciate pro wrestling. And that's what Ashe is all about. It's my love letter to pro wrestling, giving something back, but hopefully trying to make it better and move forward. So we're not just having the same old stuff and then creating more jaded fans who eventually burn out and it dies off,
No, absolutely. And it's cool that you've been able to put your sort of like passion, creativity into it. That must be like, especially after you've had, I imagine that's quite like cathartic in a way, to be able to put all that emotion that you've had into this piece of work now.
Absolutely. I think it's very therapeutic for me. And it's only becomes more therapeutic when I remember that, let's have fun with this. It is something you love to do. It is something that, you don't really have to, like, I would love to make connections with the pro wrestling world, but I don't have to necessarily answer to the echo chamber, answer to the culture or that people really want to is it 5 stars? Is it this? Is it that for pro wrestling? Or is it, I don't want to have to answer that. This is something, it's my baby, and I get to create that and show a love for it. And I don't want to get it tied into the negative stuff. I want to get into the positive and the affirmational and communal attitude of this. And I'm trying to build a communal space. And I think that's what I'm getting to do here. So it's very, like I said, therapeutic and cathartic for me to really step into that energy and that power, and remembering, have to remind myself a lot that that's what we're doing for.
No, for sure. A final thing on Arche I want to get into before we end with like a little fun feature is Charlotte. Is your hometown when you were launching Arche, was it always going to be Charlotte? Was that always important to you that it had to be there?
Always Charlotte. Always Charlotte. That's me giving back to the city. That's me giving back to, my community. Especially since, the promotion that was big in Charlotte has somewhat kind of taken a sabbatical or died off that aspect. It was time for something new to hit Charlotte in a big way, a big thing to hit Charlotte. And I think that given the history of Carolina wrestling and the way I view wrestling to be, or what I love about it, it's still embodied in that spirit, that NWA territory spirit, that Ric Flair. And not to say people are going to be doing 60-minute Broadways on my show, but but that thing of everything mattering and a hip toss getting a reaction. If it's going to be Carolina, let's make it Carolina. Let's bring some love to it. And I thought that also I have more connections in Carolina and Charlotte, really in Charlotte, to make this happen. There's been a couple times where people have asked me if I wanted to move out of Charlotte because I've been living there. Outside of wrestling, I travel so much that I don't really get the itch to leave my home. But life changes, and you're like, do I want to move out? Do I want to move to Atlanta? Do I want to move to DC? Do I want to move to England? And it's like, no, I think I need to stay here because the infrastructure that I can create here is so powerful. I have so many connections here that it really works as a launching pad here. I could now, relatively after what I've done, I could make Ashe one, then move out of Charlotte and continue to do whatever if I wanted to. But Ashe, this right here, this first show or this show period, I had to be in Charlotte to make this happen because connections are too personal. Everyone involved is aside for talent is inherently like Charlotte. The artist I booked, the DJ I booked, the person who made our graphic is a Charlotte artist named Marcus Kaiser.
I love it.
Brilliant, the genius in the flesh. I've never met someone more brilliant. Some of the people working on our advertising are from Charlotte. And so it's just, I wanted to make it communal in that aspect. We're giving money, that's a little spoiler, but we're giving money to some schools. We're doing some community work, and it starts with those kids. If you can get those kids to come out, then you have a foundation, and they're going to bring the parents and the family. And so Charlotte, it was very important to me in that aspect. Is always integral to the vision.
No, I love that. And that helps give the promotion its identity as well, right? Because, the one that springs to my mind most is North Wrestling up in Newcastle over here. And, and their identity is, that they're cemented in the city, that they're a part of the city and they're integral to the city. And, that's what you want, right? You want it to matter to the people who live there.
Absolutely. I want it to become a destination spot. I want people to want to come to Charlotte and see the show. It's just... it can bring so much to the town and to the vibe and add to the artistry of Charlotte because it's a very art-heavy city. Yeah. And I'm glad I get to add my own personal flavor through wrestling to that.
No, I love that. Well, it's been great talking about our show with you, and obviously it's going to be brilliant. We're going to come to it right at the end as well before we sign off. But before that, we've got a little fun feature here called Anatomy of a Pro Wrestler, and this is not about in the ring anymore. This is about you. This is about I wouldn't say too personal, but some little personal fun questions about sort of just what makes you tick kind of thing. Okay. So I'm going to go through these scenarios and you let me know what comes to mind. Okay. So your first one is, what's your favorite post-pinfall pig out?
My first pinfall, sorry, what is that?
Your favorite post-pinfall pig out.
Oh, like eating?
Yeah.
Okay.
After a show?
I'm a classic man. Anyone who's on the road, they think I have a baby mouth because we're on the road. There's only so many things to eat. But, I'm good with a chicken strip and French fry. That's always going to get it done for me. Classic, simple. I have, exquisite taste, but that's for the time. It's kind of hard to get sushi at 11 o'clock after you left somewhere, So it's, but a chicken strip and French fry is always going to get the job done.
Nice, nice. Well, the next one might lead on to the sushi because it's the classic, like, what would your death row last meal be?
Oh man, death row last meal. I might go with some kind of like seafood pasta or something, man.
Nice.
Something with some kind of shrimp or lobster in it, or
Ooh.
is that something either like a either red sauce or white sauce, one of the two, something.
Nice little, like,
Probably,
luxury
probably,
thing. Yeah.
yeah. I'm a pasta lover, man.
Nice. And let's see, okay, you're not gonna like me now because, like, pasta, like, in terms of carbs, pasta is like the lowest on my list.
Hey,
Like,
look, I'm not a guy who jumps down people's throat when they tell me what they like that I don't like. You know what I mean? I'm not like, you love it, you hate it, I get it. You know what I mean? There's certain things that like don't make my list, but people adore, and I can't stand. So no shade to you, but
no, I respect that. I respect that. Thank you. Thank you. I always get a lot of hate for that when I tell people that.
screw them.
But the next one's not food based. It's the song that gets you the most hyped.
Yikes! The most hype depends on the day, man. I have different levels of hype. Um, Lately, I'll just give a short answer, so I'm not naming 20 songs. Lately, it's been "The Convo" by DMX.
Nice.
It's been a really powerful song, especially it's a great gym song.
Mm.
A lift to. But actually, I will say, the actual number one is the song by Kendrick Lamar. It's called "The Heart Part 2." That song will make me come out of anything and get ready to run through a wall.
Nice, yeah.
The Heart Part 2. So anyone, if you ever heard that song, please look it up. It's beautiful.
Love it, love it. The next one is the movie that you'd show the locker room.
That I would show the locker room.
Yeah, I always say to people, like, it's the movie that, like, doesn't have to be necessarily your favorite movie, but the movie you think everyone should see.
Creed 1, Creed 2.
Creed
films. It just shows, especially if you're talking about a locker room, it shows you the perfect storytelling of a baby face and writing and everything. It's a modern tale, right? It's a modern Rocky take. And shout out to the Rocky films, but just Creed movies they mean a lot to me personally.
Yeah.
I love those films, yeah. Creed 1, Creed 2, Creed 3, whichever ones.
No, great films, yeah. I'd start at the beginning, like you said, I'd start with one. I think you got to start at the beginning, don't you? You like to see the whole journey. Yeah,
for sure.
No, love it. The next one's a bit of a throwback because it's your first job.
Oh, damn. My first job. Trying to think what counts as a job, We
normally say anything that's not a paper round.
Yeah. I think it was either I was doing canvassing for the Southern Poverty Law Center, which is like they're like a nonprofit that kind of raises awareness against hate groups.
Nice.
I was like in corners, like raising money for it. But I was also a server around that time, so I can't really remember what comes first. But I did some serving gigs at this place called Mert's Heart and Soul downtown Charlotte, right outside the Spectrum Arena, the big arena downtown. If you've ever been to Charlotte, North Carolina, it's a giant thing. There's a little black-owned little soul food restaurant. The chicken's not really that good, but the catfish is what people don't know. Get that. If you go there, get that. Mert's Heart and Soul.
Nice, it's still there.
Yeah, it's still there.
Love it. Yeah. If anyone's watching this,
I was even, it's been there for a while.
If anyone's in town for our show, right, and wants to head there before.
Yeah, but do not get the chicken and then put that on me. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just not saying it's. If you go to a soul food restaurant, you're thinking, catfish, mac and cheese, cornbread, whatever else on the side. That's the guarantee that's going to be good.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. I'd go coleslaw. I'd add coleslaw into it as well. Like coleslaw and fried for me is like the best thing.
No, absolutely. They have that option for you. The yams are pretty good there too. So if anyone's or sweet potato, whatever you prefer to call it, same thing.
See, I'm really hungry now, and I know that there's not any soul food place around me where I live. So like that's just upsetting now.
Yeah, I'm sorry to tell you. No, I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to eat after this too. I had Nando's yesterday, so I'm thinking either I like places that there's got to be a couple African restaurants around here or Dishoom. I like Dishoom.
Oh, Dishoom's really good. Yeah, Dishoom is great in London. Yeah. Love Dishoom. I might be able to recommend a couple other places once we stop recording as well.
Please.
But I'll let you know. The next one gets a little deep because it's your greatest fear.
It's changed over a while, My biggest fear used to be like not being like loved or enough, right? But then once you get a concept of self-love, no one can really take that from you. The fear is null and void. But now it's leaving a life unlived. I think that would be. I think
Mm.
that's my biggest fear. Looking back and going, "Damn, I should have done that. Damn, I didn't do enough when I had the time."
Mm.
No one wants to regret anything. I believe that's probably my biggest fear: leaving a life unlived. Yeah.
No, sure, sure. But it seems like you're going the right way to not do that at the minute. Like, yeah.
I think so. I mean, if I hadn't done Ashe, this would have been one of the things that would have gotten to me. Like I said,
Mm.
I don't want anyone to expect, 10, 12-year run or whatever. But, I told myself, if I do one show, I've done it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And I got it out of my system. I got to create something beautiful that I wanted the world to see. And I'm fine with that. So, yeah, this is living. Hopefully, this feels like living to me for the first time in a long time, for sure.
I love that. I love that. Well, big up to you for that. Big up to you for that.
Thank you.
On the again, like the back to the sort of like more positive questions, like the uplifting stuff. Well, even that was really uplifting as well, even though it was like a negative question. So I love that. But the next one is your favorite animal.
Kangaroos.
Oh, it's a great choice.
Thank you. The second is turtle, but kangaroos are just one of one. Like, they're so wild. People are afraid of them. People think they're so crazy. I think it's almost endearing.
It's because all you see on Twitter is those videos where someone like has to punch a kangaroo or something. Right? It's like this massive hench one that isn't like how every single one looks.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it's just cute. I mean, the babies are amazing. They crawl out like a fetus and then go into the womb. They know where they're blind and they know how to crawl into the mother's stomach. And they people don't realize that.
Yeah.
They come out like kind of half finished.
And they like finish cooking in the pouch. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's fascinating that they're smart enough to know where to go, the way they move. I think they're cute. They're a little adorable, little faces. I think they're just so like crazy and just different.
No, I love that. I love that choice. I love turtles as well. Turtles are cool. My choice is always red panda. Like, I'm mad for red pandas.
I like when people get specific, like not just any panda, the red one.
No, red pandas are the cutest thing in the world to me. Like, you show me one, I'll lose it.
I'm gonna say, what got you over? What put them over to you? Like, what made you?
I just like, I'd never really been a huge fan of animals until I met my partner currently, and now I think all animals are adorable. But even when I didn't like animals, I'd look at red pandas and be like, that's the cutest thing I've ever seen.
That's the thing, yeah, that's the one.
Like,
I love that.
And you sense there's like a little evil behind the eyes as well. You know what I mean? That's what I really like. It's like, they're a bit terrifying behind that, but it's masked by all this cuteness.
Everyone kind of needs an edge.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think people need that a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. No, I love that. And thank you for asking as well, because I never really thought about it, but that is why. Yeah, it's just...
Yeah.
The next one is the only wrestling one on this list, because it's your favorite match stipulation.
Classic rules, bro.
Nice.
Classic
Simple.
rules, bro. Yeah. I'm not a stip guy, Forgive, 2 or 3 falls is cool, but I don't think that needs too much. Like, sometimes 2 or 3 falls can be too much. Like,
2 out of 3 falls to me is really tough because most of them go 1 all anyway, and then it's just 1 fall, right? Like,
yeah. So it's just tricky. It's kind of hard to surprise people with those matches too. 2 out of 3. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but I think I hate to be boring vanilla, but I think that the simple rules get it done every time.
Yeah.
You can give me the whole card of one-on-one matches like New Japan does, and I'll be there.
No, I love it. And you say vanilla, but like sometimes vanilla's like the best flavor. Right? Sometimes vanilla's the flavor you want. Like,
well, you can accentuate it. The characters are that. You know what I mean? Like, you can have 6 singles matches on the card, and none of them will be the same.
Yeah. No, I think like all of the if I was going to pick my like 5 favorite matches ever, they'd all be singles matches. I can't think of like a single one in that list that wouldn't be a singles match.
There you go. Absolutely. You know what I mean? Like the scrambles, like as you come into fandom, you think you like them because you're like, more than every wrestler ever in this match is the best thing, and it's like, no, not really. Yeah. As you get older, you realize like 20 people, there don't need to be 9 people in the scramble joint. Like it's like 1-on-1 would do.
No, I get you. I love it. There's only a couple more. The next one's your favorite place in the world.
Man, it's probably the Charlotte or London.
Nice.
At this rate, you know what I mean? But I still haven't been to everywhere. So let's keep exploring. Let's keep going. I would love to explore more in Africa. I got to go a little bit. I've been to the top Africa, the very south of Africa. Need to go in the middle. Maybe there's somewhere there I love too, probably like Ghana. But for right now, London and Charlotte are 2 very special places.
Nice. I love that. Well, you sort of answered the last question. So the last question is your dream holiday destination.
Yeah, probably like a Ghana or somewhere coastal or anything like that. Just anywhere sunny. With some nice waterfronts and beaches and things like that. anywhere I can get a peace of mind where I can, I like places where I can go live somewhere very quiet, but then there's something fun in arm's reach.
Yeah. Like sort of switch off, but have the entertainment there if you want it.
Yeah, like I could do a farm in the middle of a field somewhere, or I could but if the 20-minute drive to the city, like, hey, let's do it.
Yeah, there's a bunch of places just outside London you would love for sure.
Yeah, you got to give me a list. I need to explore. I've been such a city boy every time I'm here, so I do the long drives with some of the other wrestlers and see the countryside. I go, one day I'm gonna stay out here, just turn my phone off.
Yeah. Although in like, well, as an American wrestler, I imagine traveling the UK is easy, right? Like once you've traveled America, like car ride in the UK is simple.
Absolutely. I remember one time me and Shook D had a tag match with PB Smooth and Lee Moriarty, and I drove us back 9 hours home that night, going from Pittsburgh to Charlotte, and that was just absurd. Here, that would be like here. A long time is 4 hours.
Yeah. 9 hours would get you to like from the top of Scotland to like the very south coast.
Yeah. But like there it's like not even half of there.
No, you talk to like any Brit, and the 3 hour journey is like, that's where a long journey starts, right? If a journey's 3 hours, you're like, no, it's too far.
If this was this is the bottom of the U.S. East Coast, or the top of the U.S. East Coast, we drove maybe like here.
It's just mad.
And I was like, that's mad. Only 9 hours. It was crazy.
It boggles my mind. It really does. So no, credit to you for that, because I couldn't do those journeys. Those journeys are ridiculous. But
it's a pain in the ass, but wrestling is what we do.
Well, it is, and that brings us nicely to the end of the feature, nearly to the end of the chat. It's been a pleasure having you here, Darius, and talking about all things Arche. Like, can't wait for it. We have one final question here for you that's left. It's a sort of relatively new feature we have on our show, where the last guest leaves a question for our next guest. So our last guest has left you this question. It is wrestling related, but not fully, and you'll see what I mean in a sec. Because we've had some very random question asked. But our guest left you this question. If there was a Royal Rumble of every superhero, who would win, but you're not allowed to say Superman? Because apparently the last guest thought Superman was too OP, so it wouldn't be fair.
Yeah, that's fair. If Superman can't win, he's not booked to go.
Yeah. Superman's the champion, and this Rumble is to determine who's going to face him.
I mean, it's probably some other OP hero, right? Like, so probably like Sentry or something, or Thor. Maybe the Hulk probably wins it. Is Hulk
like the Big Show though, right? Is Hulk the one they all gang up on to push out first? So like,
yeah, maybe. Yeah, they gotta give him the top rope. That's a good call. Yeah. No, I think him or Giant Man is definitely my Big Show, like Andre the Giant, right? So yeah, they're definitely ganging up on them. I mean, Batman don't win. I tell you that much.
Yeah, he's out early.
He's lost. He's getting gorilla pressed. And I think it's probably someone OP like Thor or Sentry.
Nice, yeah.
Like Captain Marvel, she can kick anyone's ass, so who knows?
No, good shouts. I'm very interested. I want to see this match now. match.
I mean, you had me. I was like, damn, I want to see it played out.
We need to see it. We deserve to see it. Marvel, if you're anyone from Marvel's watching who can make this happen.
I will say, Spider-Man will be very hard to eliminate.
Yeah, you could just cling onto the top of the arena, right? Like, shoot a web, just hang there.
I mean, he's sticking onto the ropes. You're not going to take the hands off. Before he hits the floor, he can make a web, so he's bouncing off the web back into the ring. He's Kofi Kingston.
Yeah, it's Kofi Kingston, like, to a new level, right?
Yeah, Spider-Man, absolutely. He's not getting eliminated. So maybe Spidey.
Yeah. Sneak up, like, last minute, like, Thor thinks he's won it, and Spidey just swings back in, kicks him over. Yeah. We need to see this now. I hope someone from Marvel sees this. I hope they do.
MCU me, baby.
Yeah, love it. Well, I'll get your question for our next guest after we finish recording. But no, Darius Lockhart, thank you so much for coming on the Grapple Theory podcast. It's been an absolute pleasure having you here. I hope you've enjoyed it.
No, I've had a great time, you guys. I mean, I'm 2 for 2 for interviews right now. You said you're worried about wrestling given to me first, and you're excellent follow-up. This is a great interview. I had a lot of fun.
Thank you. That means a lot. But big up Wrestlings as well. Big fan of those guys. They do great work as well. They do great work. Great guys. But no, that means a lot. Thank you so much. We always end each podcast by giving our guest one final bit of promo time. So as we've been talking about Arche throughout the majority of this podcast, it's only fair to give it one final sort of send-off for anyone watching this in America or in the UK, or anyone who can come to the show, wants to check out the show online or on demand or wherever it might be after that. Why should people check out Arche? Why should people be checking out this new promotion that you've created?
You should check out Arche because it's different and familiar at the same time. It's going to be everything you hopefully love about pro wrestling, and get some stuff that you didn't realize maybe pro wrestling might need in the future. It has some exciting characters, some people you haven't seen before that are ready to break out, some people that you know you love and haven't seen them in this aspect before, on this kind of staging, in this environment. It's really kind of turning a lot of tropes on their heads here, and giving people what they really love about pro wrestling. So that's why you should definitely watch it. It will be streamed online. I will let people know as soon as I can where. It's just a matter of trying to facilitate things between me and it's all tricky. But yes, it will be streamed online. So if you are in London, you can watch. If you are in Japan, you can watch. If you are in Africa, you can watch. It'll just be a matter of time and when and where. Please follow us at Ashe Wrestling on all platforms, at Ashe Entertainment on TikTok. If you want to just get a clear, encapsulate all, AsheWrestling.com will take you to any of those spots. It also takes you to our merchandise shop. That we got some clothes, some cool merch for you in all different kind of color waves. You can find me at DLockPro on Twitter. You can find me at Darius Lockhart everywhere else. Just simply Google my name and the breadcrumbs will be there. The paper trail is there to follow. So please support Ashe Wrestling. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's how we're going to monetize things. Please help subscribe to our YouTube channel. We are giving away a PlayStation 5. If I just announced it a few minutes ago, last week, if you're watching it now, but we are giving away a PlayStation 5. All you have to do is go to the post that you see the announcement on, tag 3 people that you think would love Ashe, put hashtag AshePS5 and subscribe to our YouTube channel. That will put you in the running to win it. We don't know who's going to win it, but you will get 2 free tickets to keep for yourself or pass on to someone else, and a brand new PlayStation 5. Please join us, and hope to have you there. Hope to see you there.
Love it. Brilliant. Darius, thanks so much, and best of luck for the show.
Thank you so much, guys. I appreciate it. Thank you, man.